want to speak about a bill I'm introducing today that's related to the Farm Bill. It deals with reforming payment limits for farm programs. As one looks back to the fall of 2011 and the failure of what is referred to as a super committee at that time, we saw many committees continue on business as usual. However, one committee's members took it upon themselves to continue efforts to tackle spending and propose meaningful reductions of expenditures, and that was the Senate Agriculture Committee. For that matter, the House Agriculture Committee worked towards that end as well, and I commend Chairman Stabenow and then Ranking Member Roberts for corralling the many ideas of the members of the committee to write a bill that actually reduced expenditures by $23 billion. We were able to work in committee to get the bill done. We were able to work in a bipartisan manner to get the bill to the Senate floor and pass with a bipartisan majority. It is how legislation is supposed to be considered and debated in the Senate floor, something we refer to as regular order. One of the measures in last year's Farm Bill was my proposal reforming payment limitations to farm programs. Adopting reform to payment limitations contributed to this $23 billion of savings that I already mentioned. Beyond just being a part of saving money, these reforms help ensure farm payments go to those who they were originally intended, small and medium-sized farmers. There are many reforms that can be made to save money, but we have to try to save more money, but I want to concentrate now, rather than going into some of those things, and I'll put that portion of my remarks in the record, and talk about the bill I'm introducing. When we do move forward on drafting a new farm bill, I will again be pushing for the reforms to payment limitations. That's why today I'm introducing the Farm Program Integrity Act of 2013 with Senators Johnson of South Dakota, Senator Enzi, and Senator Brown. The proposed legislation strikes a needed balance of recognizing the need for farm safety net while making sure that we have a defensible and responsible safety net. In case there's any doubt, we do need a farm program safety net. For those who argue that we do not need such a safety net for our farmers, I argue that they do not understand the dangers of the nation which do not produce enough food to feed their people. Take Germany and Japan during World War II, for instance. There came a point where their soldiers had difficulty fighting because they didn't have food to eat. So today, their respective governments of Germany and Japan maintain a vigorous support for their farmers. It's a matter of social cohesion as well. Without a secure source of food, we jeopardize our very way of life. And all you have to do is look around the world where there is hunger, and you see rioting, stealing, and other acts of violence. So we need our farmers to keep producing food, not only for here, but what we export as well. For all the advances in modern agriculture, farmers are still subject to conditions out of their control. Just look at the drought that still grips much of the United States. Without an adequate safety net, some farmers would be left with no ability to make it the following year. That would mean potentially less food being produced for an ever-increasing world population, and that ought to be a scary prospect. While farmers need a safety net, there does come a point where a farmer gets big enough or financially secure enough, he can weather tough times without much assistance from the government. Somehow, though, over the years, there has developed this perverse scenario where big farmers are receiving the largest share of the farm programs. We now have the largest 10% of the farmers receiving nearly 70% of the assistance under the Farm Bill. There's nothing wrong with farmers growing his operation. That's the American way. But the taxpayer should not be subsidizing large farming operations to grow even larger. By having reasonable caps on the amount of farm program payments any one farmer can receive, it helps ensure the program meets the intent of assisting small and medium-sized farmers through tough times. My proposed caps on payment will also help encourage the next generation of rural Americans to take up farming. I'm approached time and again about how to keep young people into farming. With large farmers able to use farm program payments to drive up the cost of land and rental rates, our farm programs end up hurting those that are meant to help, particularly getting young farmers started. It is simply good policy to have a hard cap on the amount of a single farmer can receive in the farm program. We will keep in place a much-needed safety net for farmers who need it, and it will help reduce the negative impact of farm payments have on land prices. Our bill sets an overall cap of $250,000 for married couples. In my state, many people would say that that's still too high, but we have to recognize that agriculture is different in different parts of the country. So this has been a figure that has worked as a national compromise. Just as important to setting a hard cap on payments is closing off loopholes that will allow non-farmers to game the farm program. The bill being introduced today will do this by cutting off the ability of these non-farmers from abusing what is referred to through the words, quote unquote, actively engaged in farming. In essence, the law says one has to be actively engaged in farming to qualify for farm payments. However, this has been exploited by people who have virtually nothing to do with a farming operation, yet receive payments from the farm program. Our nation has a $16 trillion debt. We cannot afford to simply look the other way and let the people abuse the farm program. The Farm Program Integrity Act of 2013, the bill that I'm speaking about, is the same in purpose as what it states in its name. This is about increasing the integrity of the farm program. My colleagues here in the Senate agreed with me last year as we included this pivotal program in the Farm Bill. I am confident that these reforms will garner similar approval in this new Congress. I mentioned earlier how we need to assess some of the challenging areas of farm policy as we look to pass a five-year farm bill, and some tough decisions need to be made. However, my proposed reform regarding payment limits do not pose a tough decision. In fact, they're very common sense and necessary reforms. I yield the floor. I suggest the absence of a quorum and permission to put my entire statement in the record.
Without objection, so ordered.